Wiseman. He's an expert in Brown's gas, and I'm going to have him tell you a little bit about him because he's been in this business for a really long time.
Yes, long time.
And you can't tell because he's using Brown's gas, but he's got a baby face.
Yes. It's a long story for sure, and been quite exciting over the years. So at first I got into Brown's gas by fuel savers. I was working with hydrogen, putting hydrogen into engines to act like a catalyst to increase the fuel economy. And that was really good. It worked really well, and I didn't know I was making Brown's gas at the time, back in 1986. But I learned later that Yul Brown had commercialized essentially the same electrolyzers that I had developed, and I started learning a lot more about Brown's gas based on all the other things that were happening in the world. And I named it Brown's gas. I kept it as named Brown's gas to honor Yul Brown, who commercialized the gas. The very first inventor of the gas, the patenting person, was William Rhodes in Phoenix, Arizona in the 1960s. So by the time 80s ran around, Yul Brown had developed and was his own electrolyzers and was commercializing the gas. And when I learned about what he was doing, he was actually making what I call water torches. It was like an electrolyzer large enough to make enough hydrogen-oxygen mixture to fuel a torch, a regular acetylene torch, replacing the acetylene with the Brown's gas. And the torches worked great. They were absolutely amazing, but they were incredibly expensive at that time. So since I already knew how to build an electrolyzer, I built my own, and it turns out that mine were twice as efficient as Yul Brown's, because I'm an alternative energy researcher, and I just kind of stumbled into this Brown's gas because I wanted a Brown's gas generator in my own shop. I couldn't afford one, so I just built it, and then we're discovering all these other things that it could do. So since I built my own electrolyzers, I've never used an acetylene torch in my shop again. It's all been that. And then there were the other. I have about 9 electrolyzers, Brown's gas electrolyzers, in my own home and shop, because in addition to the shop ones, I have one on each of my vehicles to get better fuel mileage. And then in my home, I have health application, and I also have micro torch in the shop and big torches and things like that. So going through the phases, I started out with fuel saving, and then we went into the torch work, and I sold hundreds of my design of Brown's gas electrolyzers with the large torches. And then we went into the health application. That totally stumbled upon. Like it was actually given to me by my customers. My customers who had torches were using the Brown's gas for health application, and I have no idea why. And it didn't make any sense for me at the time, because using a combustible torch fuel for health purposes was kind of counterintuitive for me. I was using it to burn metal, not to increase the health of people. So or increase the fuel economy of a fuel, a carbon-based fuel. So when this guy got a hold of me and said that he had used the gas to bubble it in water, and used that bubbled water to cure a melanoma on his forehead in 3 weeks, I frankly didn't believe him. I thought he was telling me stories, and I just kind of ignored it. But then other people were using the bubbled water to increase the health and growth of plants, all different kinds of plants. We're talking just every different kind of plant that possibly could be. And one guy who then I gave an electrolyzer to experiment on his entire orchard reported back incredible lush growth, and he even fed it to his chickens, and they doubled their egg production overnight. And there was a chiropractor who then came to me and said, can I use the gas to see if because I'm in oxygen therapies and it has oxygen in it. The Brown's gas has hydrogen, oxygen, and turns out electrically expanded water, which we'll get into later. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is he thought the oxygen would help. It's oxygen therapies. Well, it turns out it isn't the oxygen in the Brown's gas that does most of the therapeutic thing. It needs to be there, but it's the hydrogen and the electrically expanded water. In any case, he did a few quick experiments in my lab and determined that he definitely wanted one of these machines for his practice. And for several years then, he was a retired chiropractor at that point, Lloyd Jacob in Spokane, Washington. And he's since retired again, but for several years he used the Brown's gas in his practice. And the first one he was using, the first machine, he built himself, or had a friend build. And when it broke down in a year or so, he didn't know how to fix it, and his friend had moved on. So he called me in desperation because he said, my patients, I tell them my Brown's gas machine is not working, and they tell me I'm not going to bother coming in for treatment then. It's like, I'm out of business unless I have a Brown's gas machine. And so he, that same day, drove up to my lab, and I was selling machines at that time, and bought a machine and took it back, and he was back in business, which he was several years in business with that machine. It worked really well for him and his business. So that was how effective it was. As a chiropractor, he was a very good chiropractor, but he couldn't, there's another little quick story, he couldn't adjust his own wife. She was always too tense or whatever, but as soon as he treated her with the Brown's gas, he could adjust her. It relaxed the muscles enough that the bones could slip into place, and it was interesting. So the first time she was ever able to be adjusted by her husband was after the Brown's gas. So it was very effective in the chiropractic use. And so then we, these sort of things started to make me think, oh, maybe there is something to this health application of the gas. I don't actually have to burn it to be useful and actually have the gas itself. So I started, by that time, it was about 2000, it was 1996 that the melanoma thing occurred. So in 2005, I started drinking the Brown's gas bubbled water myself. And so you could see I'm pretty hard-headed. It took me a few years to get to that point. But since, from 2005 to 2007, I drank the water, and I never got sick. I felt it was doing me good. And so I started building electrolyzers that were health related, optimized for health, which I called the ER50. But it looked like a science experiment. And I sold hundreds of those, but my wife would never allow one in the house because it was just a cobbled together collection of pipes and it didn't fit with the decor. Even though I'm an inventor, my invention stuff was in the lab, and the lab was not allowed in the house. Okay, so she did eventually convince me to make put it in an enclosure, which you can see behind me here. That's the AquaCure. But from 2007, when I started selling ER50s, to 2016, I told people, because customers were bubbling the water and getting their health benefits and all that kind of thing of hydrogenated water, and there's a big fad now starting up because all of this the information has been spreading, and it's a good thing. Hydrogenated water is a good thing.
Can I ask one question relative?
Yes.
Because I've never, until you spoke the other day, I'd never heard of the word or thought of it. It was dehydrated, where now all of a sudden you're taking the hydrogen, and that's what's actually
Dehydrating a person, that's right.
Right? So explain that a little bit more, because I thought that I just like, all of a sudden you just go, ding.
Yes.
Right?
Okay, well, water is mostly hydrogen.
Right.
So when you're lacking in liquid water, they were thinking people's dehydrated. It can actually go into a prune if you don't have enough water in your system. And most people don't drink enough water. But dehydration, real dehydration, in my opinion, is where you're lacking in hydrogen. And most of the people are lacking in hydrogen, even if they're drinking enough water, because you don't get your hydrogen from your water generally, you get your hydrogen from your food mostly. And so hydrogen is a food. You have to consider hydrogen as a food, and that's important later as we're talking on things. But what happens is starting in the enzymes in your mouth, you start breaking down the food till it gets down through all the chemical reactions into your colon. And that's where the bacteria live that break the food apart into the hydrogen and carbon and whatever else the food is comprised of. So you got hydrocarbons that you're eating, plants and meat and what have you, and that's where then the hydrogen that breaks off of that goes directly into your bloodstream through your colon walls. Now, you can't breathe in hydrogen like you breathe in oxygen, because hydrogen doesn't exist in the air. If there's hydrogen free, it just goes to God. Immediately rises. So the hydrogen is important. You're 62% hydrogen by volume. It's your most important nutrient. If we look at the scale of how we're composed, we have 62% hydrogen, 24% oxygen, 12% carbon, and 2% everything else. So people, they concentrate on supplements of calcium and magnesium and selenium and iron, and that's the 2%. A person should be thinking, when you're dehydrated, and especially now because you don't have enough hydrogen, you're dehydrated. You got to concentrate on your macronutrients first, in my opinion.
Okay.
So Why do we not have enough hydrogen? Mostly it's because of antibiotics. This miracle of modern medicine, which is definitely awesome, kills the bacteria, the good bacteria as well as the bad bacteria in your guts. And you have bacteria in your food, antibiotics in your food, and chemicals that kill bacteria in the food, and just bad food, frankenfoods and stuff like that, all of which do not enhance the biodome in your guts, biodiversity. And it turns out that the hydrogen bacteria, hydrogen-producing bacteria, are particularly sensitive to this sort of thing. So virtually the entire population who has received antibiotics even since they were a child are lacking in the hydrogen-producing bacteria. So they end up just not being able to have enough hydrogen. So one indication is when people scar. If you have a scar, it means you're lacking in hydrogen. It's as simple as that. Because the body, like when you're getting hypothermia, the body will shut down heat to the extremities to preserve the core. Your body is amazing. So your body is trying its best to keep you alive. So it shuts down extraneous functions like your regeneration system, your immune system. So people are scarring instead of healing and getting sick instead of being well because the body is trying to preserve life. So what has happened with myself and many people who have been breathing the Brown's gas, it happened after I started breathing the Brown's gas. So hydrogenated water is good, but 10 times better is the breathing of the gas. And breathing of hydrogen is good, but breathing of the Brown's gas is better because it includes another gas called electrically expanded water, which we can get into shortly. So it's important after you get enough hydrogen in you with this hydrogen supplementation, because it's a food and you're not getting it from your food, so you're supplementing with this food, which is your hydrogen. You end up being able to the body's immune system, and it becomes amazing. I haven't been sick since 2005, and if you take the top 10 stressors, I've had most of them that make people sick. So then the next thing is the regeneration system. All my scars have disappeared, and universally people are saying the same thing. So instead of making scar cells, like just patching over the wound, it actually allows the skin cells to regenerate and start making skin cells, and then the scars disappear. Your skin becomes baby skin smooth. So things like psoriasis and warts, like I had warts since I was a child, and it's a virus, and my body was never able to get rid of them because it didn't have the immune system built up with the hydrogen. As soon as I started breathing the hydrogen, it took about 3 months of breathing the hydrogen, my warts disappeared, all of them. My neuropathies disappeared. I was scared I was going to lose the use of my left hand because it was getting numb out from the palm and out toward the fingers. And when I started breathing the Brown's gas, the numbness faded away until I had full feeling back in my hands and the fronts of my legs.
Is it like everything is sort of firing inside? You're giving it you're stimulating.
Yeah, your body comes back alive.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everything that's supposed to be functioning gets turned back on. And this isn't the only technology that does that. Here at this conference, obviously you can see many more. This is a very simple device that it uses distilled water and electricity, and you can do this in your own home. So you've got it easy to just breathe the gas with a cannula, simply as if you were breathing a bottled oxygen, and away you go.
So between what we're drinking and even what we're eating, all of it seems to be lacking the firing power to charge the body, to heal it, to excite it, to make it literally alive.
Yes, and that brings us to electrically expanded water.
Okay.
You can think of as the hydrogen as food, but the body needs to do something with that food. And to do something with anything, you need energy. Right. And then electrically expanded water is a plasma form of water. Okay? My electrolyzers, and any Brown's gas electrolyzer, will make electrically expanded water, which is the plasma form of water. You have a solid, a liquid, a gas, and a plasma, fourth state of matter. So the plasma is simply a gas which has extra electrons. These electrons are bioavailable. So when you breathe the gas, it goes into your system here, and you've got into your bloodstream, and that energy we've looked at my blood and several other people's blood. It does the same in everybody, with a dark field microscope, so you can actually see what happens to the blood. And when the corpuscles are charged, they actually show a charge. They turn into a charged particle, and they line up just like little magnets, and they go through the body, and they distribute this energy where it's needed. The body knows where to go, what to do with it. So when you breathe the gas, the body distributes it as it wants to, and every body is different. For example, the very first time that I breathed the gas, I could not fall asleep that night. I breathed it about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was alert all night. It was disconcerting. It wasn't painful, and it wasn't a buzz like if I had coffee, right. but I was just alert, and I couldn't fall asleep. After my body got used to it, it was fine, but my body was doing what it needed to do at first. Now my wife, when she first breathed it, it put her right out. She had 10 minutes, poof, out. Nice peaceful sleep. So every body is different, and every body knows what it needs for itself. We live in amazing, our bodies are astounding, but they need the food and they need the energy. So the electrically expanded water is important. And there's a big fad now going on, and more people are going to learn about it all the time, about hydrogen for health. And it's good, because it's our macronutrient, which has been ignored for centuries by mainstream medical science. And now everybody's piling on board. But hydrogen is good, but you also need the plasma form of the water, the electrically expanded water. That's the next level. So if you want to kind of just jump over the current fad and get into the next one right away, then this is the machine you need to do that. I call it the AquaCure.
Tell us a little bit about how it works, because I can see the bubbles.
Okay, so we'll take a quick look. This machine, this is the off button here, and you can turn the main power on and off here. When you turn on the power, it lights up a little sight tube over here so that you can see the liquid level. We have a low liquid level and a high liquid level, so these are safety features of the machine. I build the safest machine in the world. I've been building electrolyzers since 1986, so I did the best job I could to build the safest machine. And it has full instructions and what have you. So you turn on the power, then you can turn on the timer, and you select which time you want, like say 30 minutes, and you can have a 30-minute treatment. And can we show?
Yeah.
This gentleman is currently having a treatment. And you can see the cannula is on. There we go. Yep. Excellent. And
why don't you start that sentence again so I can cut there?
Okay. This man is currently having a treatment and doing well. Got the cannulas on properly. Okay. So then what happens is the gas comes out of the machine through the primary filter, which takes out any little bit of lye mist that might be in there, and then the secondary filter, which is just a backup. And then it goes into the bubbler, which is bubbling and actually making your drinking water at the same time as feeding the gas out to breathe. So it's a 2-for. I love doing things so that it makes the most efficient use of something. So this, after 10 minutes of bubbling in here, is fully saturated with the hydrogen and electrically expanded water and the oxygen. Everything is fully saturated in here, all the energies, and this becomes what I consider to be the most healthful water on the planet. Everything that they've tested in the waters that heal is in this water. So the water is good and important, but you get 10 times the value out of the gas if you breathe it in. You get 10 times more out of the hydrogen and the electrically expanded water and everything directly into your body, just like I'm going to say God intended when it comes into your body through your intestines. Except that we have the compromised systems, the digestive systems. So you put water in here at the top, just plain distilled water, and just keep it full like that. You turn it on and off, and you use it. That's as simple as you go. Now there's various other attachments that I have, like for example this spot applicator. If you want to do a wound, so then or a scar or a rash or a psoriasis or any particular thing, you can use a spot applicator like this, and the end of it just plugs on where the cannulas would plug on here. So again, you're making your bubbled water at the same time as you're treating yourself with this sort of a thing. You can also use this same sort of thing in a bag where you put a bag on your arm or your leg, and you put the gas in the bag, and so you're topically applying the gas to the skin, which is an advantage in that when you breathe the gas, your body decides where it goes, what gets healed or enhanced or whatever it is it happens to be doing. Like, for example, my hair is starting to grow back. I was bald down to here, and my family has gone bald for generations. So it's quite amazing. Even if I had stopped going bald further, but it would have been amazing. But now the hair is actually coming back, which is amazing. And if you look at my pictures, you can see that my look has decreased in age by at least 10 years. The pictures of 10 years ago, people would think are current pictures. And the pictures of only 5 years ago, I look like an old man. I had full white beard and less hair and baggy eyes and all that kind of stuff. So,
let me ask you a question.
Yes.
So just so that people understand clearly, what does oxygenated water and expanded water, what is that? I get the health benefits, but what is actually happening with this water that drives its energy and does what it does?
First, I call it the hydrogenated water, and because a lot of people do oxygenated water, but this does actually oxygenated and hydrogenated and electrically expanded water.
Okay.
So what it's doing is giving the body what it needs. The body does its own healing. Every body heals itself. So, and the best a doctor can do, for example, is to give the body what it needs to heal itself. This is one of the things that it needs to heal itself. Now, most people ordinarily get it from their food,
right,
or they should, as God intended, but they're not. So this is the way that you can add hydrogen and energy for your body to heal itself. And it's as simple as that. The mechanism is we're just simply providing the elements of hydrogen, oxygen, and energy in the plasma form of water that the body can heal itself. Nothing happens without the building blocks, the bricks, if you will, to make a house, and then the energy necessary to put the bricks in place. So the bricks themselves aren't going to do anything, so hydrogen alone won't do anything. You need that energy as well.
So when I'm looking at it, is you're basically putting, like you said, the building blocks of life, from hydrogen to plasma to water, which are the
Yep.
essence of life itself.
Yes.
So what you're doing is taking the essence and allowing people to consume it in a way, whether it's breathing or drinking, to enhance the systems that are actually lacking right now on our planet with the food, the depletion of food, and the way our clean air. So you're actually providing the clean, unobstructed, charged water that we would normally get.
That's correct.
Okay.
Reducing things to its very basic essence. Not having a whole lot of extraneous things. Rube Goldberg, that's one of the things as an inventor, I like to go to the very basic simplicity of something, which then brings me back to the what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where I'm a very hard-headed person, even though I'm an inventor. And so I didn't breathe the gas until 2016, because my customers were asking me, can we breathe the gas? We're bubbling the water, and we're drinking bubble water, and it's doing great. Can we breathe the gas? I said, no. It's a combustible mixture. It's hydrogen-oxygen mixture, one of the most combustible and explosive mixtures on the planet. The bombs the military has, just short of nuclear, are air fuel bombs made with hydrogen and oxygen. So I said no. And then in December of 2015, one of my customers sent me a video of people breathing the Brown's gas in the Orient. They're way ahead of us in the Orient, way ahead. There are so many manufacturers, and they essentially, as they built up their country, like China built a huge, came into the first world nation, and they just jumped over a whole bunch of technologies, like acetylene, for example, and they're doing the Brown's gas for health. Japan is huge in the Brown's gas for health, especially in all the spas and everything, because it makes youthful appearance, and they're big on youth. So, and they have also done studies where they have taken the people who lived the longest in Japan and the people who weren't living very long, and they found that the people who weren't living very long didn't have very much hydrogen in their bloodstream. And the people that did, the whole family, so the people that did live long had large quantities of hydrogen in their bloodstream. So again, they're probably in a situation where these people had really good gut bacteria and these people did not. And it was as simple as that. So the people that didn't have, and they did this with mouse studies, they gave them hydrogen by breathing, and they could get a 30 to 50% life extension healthful life extension. You're not laying around in bed all wrinkled and just waiting to die for decades. You're out and about. And myself, I go on like 3 to 5 hours of sleep every night. I don't need any more sleep than that. My brain does its thing, and I'm just up and about and alert and able to do things. There was a time recently that I was doing a construction job, and a foundation needed to be taken out. So they got a jackhammer, and the 20 and 30-year-olds who should have been on the jackhammer were scared of the jackhammer. But I jackhammered when I was in the mines, working in the mines when I was young, so I just grabbed the jackhammer and jackhammered all day. And ordinarily you'd think a 60-year-old man jackhammering all day would stove him up. No such thing. I had no pain, no nothing. So people who are active and wanting to have a lot of exercise, they won't have the repercussions that normal ones do.
I just want to move you this way because I'm talking to you now and not him.
Yep.
Is that okay?
Yep, fine.
I just figured okay. So you can keep going.
Okay. So back again to the nice thing about that, you can edit it, I assume.
Yeah, I can. That was the whole point.
Yes. So back to my hard-headedness with the breathing of the Brown's gas is that after I saw this video in the Orient, I was able to remember something I should have known right from the beginning, is that as soon as you mix the Brown's gas, the hydrogen, with air, enough air, it dilutes it to the point where it's not flammable anymore. And I did the calculations quickly, and it turns out that the little amount of Brown's gas that is coming out of a machine like this is, if you breathe in the large amount of air that you breathe in, it's under the explosive limit. So then you can breathe in therapeutic amounts of the Brown's gas without any worries that you're going to have an explosive mixture in your lungs and go pop maybe. So it's the one niggly quirk about this. There's no toxic limit. There's been scientific studies to find any negative side effects to this gas. There are none. The conclusively studied, like over 300 scientific studies of Brown's gas and hydrogen, and they found absolutely no negative side effects. All the side effects were positive. For example, they were trying to see about blood pressure, and they would have the Brown's gas, and when they were breathing it, the people's blood pressure went down, and when they'd stop breathing it, they'd have to go back on blood pressure meds because their blood pressure would go up again. Okay. So and these people were finding things like their scars disappear, their warts disappear, their neuropathies disappear, all these side effects.
It makes sense though.
Yes.
Because when you actually realize you're giving the body what it needs to be fully charged, then everything is working and the healing happens.
Exactly.
Yeah. Let me ask a question, because it sounds like, besides just the AquaCure, do you also sell the things for people to their motors to save gas in their car?
Yes, I do.
So do you have a broader scope of what you sell online? So what else
Yes.
do you sell?
Well, mostly just those three things. There's various kinds of fuel savers, one of which uses the Brown's gas. Okay. There's 3 or 4 others that vaporize the fuel and otherwise make it more efficient.
Okay.
For example, I discovered it's relatively simple to go 10 times further on a gallon of gas. And there's absolutely no reason why the car companies aren't doing that. In fact, there's over 5,000 fuel saver patents that have been suppressed so that nobody's doing that. They sell vehicles in order to burn fuel to make money, and if a vehicle's got 10 times further, they'd lose trillions of dollars. So, and it comes back the same thing to the pharmaceutical industry. They don't actually cure anything. The drug, there's been a study. Recently there was a study to see, and they found that it was not economically viable to heal people. Honest to God, there's a study about that, okay? The big pharma did a study to see, and they found it's better to mitigate symptoms, okay, than to actually heal the disease. As long as you can keep people sick but feeling okay, then they're okay. The big pharma keeps making money because the people are still sick, but they keep taking things like allergy medication and that's a big one, and blood pressure medications and all these kind of things. You can pretty much see that the advertisements on TV, like it used to be smoking. Smoking's no more, but they've got all these drugs on TV, and that's how they're making their money. So It's one of those things. It's a pet peeve of mine. But if you breathe this, your blood pressure goes down, your cholesterol goes away, like it heals the arteries, and it just heals things so you don't need it. My wife, for example, she had to take a Zyrtec every day, anti-allergy medication, just because she couldn't. She would be coughing and choking, and even so hard that she'd start puking, because it was, so she had to take a Zyrtec just to live. But as soon as she started breathing this, she maybe had to take 1 or 2 Zyrtec a year if it was exceptionally bad allergy season or something like that. And so it just made her whole life to where she could get out and do things. And you want to do things. That's another thing, is that when you're fatigued, chronic fatigue, you don't feel like doing anything, and it's just a downward spiral. If you don't use it, you lose it, kind of thing.
George, it almost sounds like this would be perfect even in old age homes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it would be like a really smart.
Yeah.
And places where, and what, just out of curiosity, because there's a lot of people doing hyperbaric chamber stuff for children with autism and things like that. Would that help oxygenate? Would that have any benefit for autism?
It does have benefit for autism. I don't advise a hyperbaric chamber, because you'd have to be really careful with the concentration of hydrogen.
Right.
Because you don't want to have them in a little bomb, right?
Right.
But they can breathe the gas even if they're in the hyperbaric chamber,
right.
And or out of it, whatever.
Yeah.
But absolutely, virtually everything across the board is helped either directly or indirectly by the brown's gas. It's your food.
Yeah.
You need to get enough of it.
You're right. Well, we don't come into life without breathing. I mean, that's the first thing we do. So
Yes.
having good quality air, atmospheric, which
Yep.
we're all being compromised with the air and the pollution and different things. And as somebody said to me yesterday with the chemtrails, all these things are compromising our lungs and the resources that we have. So
Yep.
Okay. So thank you. I think that is there anything else you're thinking of that I've missed?
Oh, just to finalize, is
Yeah.
that once I did start breathing the brown's gas,
Yeah.
then I got all these health benefits that I was talking about and more. Like my arthritis is entirely gone. I have full function and no pain in my hands.
Did inflammation go away?
Yes, inflammation. One of the beauties of it is it's one of the best anti-inflammatories ever.
Okay.
And it's a natural. It's what the body normally would use to be anti-inflammatory, and free radical, like a free radical scavenger. And the nice thing about it, it's the only one that selectively takes away the free radicals, and because there's bad free radicals and there's good ones, like nitrous oxides that are in your body help your libido and all that kind of thing. You want those, but a regular what would you call it? Antioxidant would scavenge those as well. But the brown's gas with the hydrogen and the electrically expanded water only scavenges the bad ones, turns them into water. So there's no side effects, and it gets rid of all that. Yeah. So anyway, I started breathing, and I got all the health benefits, and it seems that I'm reverse aging. I guess you would call it biologically. And I had a blood test done fairly recently, and the people couldn't believe that I was a 60-year-old person. They thought it was 20-year-old blood. Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Well, thank you, because it's thank you for changing lives, and thank you for what you're doing. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. There we go.